So the big question over the top is, how did Superman fare in its first full week of release heading into its second weekend? Long story short, pretty dang good, if we're being completely honest. Now, the big thing over the top of it is, well, it probably didn't end up for as much cope as there is around this film in the grand scheme of things. I'm sure Warner Brothers would have wanted something a little bit more substantive, as opposed to the $125 million that they got domestically, and due to the fact that we haven't had any kind of a refresh on the international box office, I'm kind of wondering what the heck is going on over there. But yes, I'm sure Warner Brothers was they were probably hoping for at least 150, probably aiming towards $200 million. And if it would have had the hold that it did over this past week and going into this next weekend, I mean, just a marginal drop off from its opening weekend, they probably would have been a little bit more ecstatic and there would have been a little less cope running around. But hey, you can't play with the cards that you want to have. You have to play with the ones that you do have. So Superman aiming for a $55 million or more second weekend, and with a lack of competition, and as it sits, right? Like, I'm completely and totally underwhelmed with this film. I don't like it at all whatsoever, but given the fact that it is successful enough and Warner Brothers is putting out a strong face, and there's so many other projects in the works at Warner Brothers, I mean, I don't want any more of James Gunn's interpretation of Superman, but I do want a unifying voice, and I do want some stability within this franchise. So yeah, there is a potential where you could get some better creatives, you could get a better script, you could get a better director or cinematographer, you could get just better people in place to put these pieces that you already have in place in better positions to succeed. Because for all of the scuttle about the film itself, like, there's very little to say about bad casting, because from toes to titties, it's very well casted. It's a very well acted film, sans one notable exception. But all things considered, people want to see these characters played by these actors continue that story, or perhaps with a totally different story. But they at least like the characters, and if the film does well enough, I really do want to see that. Okay, because if there's something else that has just been announced, the Taika Waititi Judge Dredd movie, I don't want to see that. I really don't want to see that, bro. That's gonna suck so bad. But anyways, Superman will loom large again at the box office as two major newcomers, a Smurfs musical, bruh, and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah, and the biggest scuttle about I Know What You Did Last Summer is Jennifer Love Hewitt's pre-diabetic ass turning up on the red carpet. Oh no, she looks good for 46. Yeah, 46. Is that her waistline? After a mighty $125 million domestic start. Is that really mighty? Superman is aiming to collect $55 to $62 million in its second weekend of release, a standard 50 to 55% drop. Well, standard, I guess, in the industry in general, but when it comes to superheroes, that is pretty damn good, because Marvel has unfortunately set a standard of its own where, yes, 60 to 70% is the expected second week drop off as people get hype because, oh my god, guys, we're so back. Marvel has never been so back. This is the best thing since Endgame. And after all the shills get there and everybody hears the reviews, or they go and they're underwhelmed, fewer and fewer people turn up to the box office, and well, we end up with what we got at the beginning of the year. And honestly, how that knock-on effect is going to go towards Fantastic Four, well, we'll talk about that with the third video on the day, but I digress. Solid reviews and positive word of mouth should help the comic book adventure stick around during the competitive summer movie season. But yeah, I mean, like, outside of Jurassic World, maybe, but we could take a look at that box office. But as it sat for the week, right, like, Superman doing pretty goddamn good. James Gunn's Superman had the biggest Wednesday box office of 2025 domestically with $11.8 million. I guess you're not factoring in Jurassic World because it quote-unquote debuted for its 5-day weekend on Wednesday, but okay. The film also had the highest Tuesday box office of 2025 this week. And yeah, it had the biggest non-holiday Monday as well, which we talked about in the last video. And yeah, Superman, it's doing pretty good. Let's see if they updated the international numbers yet, but I don't think so. No, again, it's just still stuck at 95 million, and you can see the little projection graph that the numbers has right here, and yeah, it's slotting in, actually trending towards the top end of projections, which is pretty good. And like I said, like, I'm not sweeping for this film. I'm not a disgruntled Snyder bro. I'm not somebody who was sweeping for this film. It's just, yeah, these are the numbers, man. It's like, and they're looking pretty good. $56 million when you factor in Tuesday and Thursday previews onto the Friday. That's a damn good turnout. The single biggest day for a film, full stop this year. And very likely until Avatar rolls around, like probably that's going to maintain that high level because nothing else outside, like after Fantastic Four, it's a fucking desert of content. But we've been over that time and time again. And yeah, the rest, like it has not. And Thursday numbers haven't come in yet, so that might dip down because Thursday normally is the lowest day of the week. Like it could get into that 7-digit mark, but the fact that it hasn't got there yet, that's pretty damn good. That is really damn good, in fact. And just looking at Jurassic World Rebirth, and even though it's apparently overperforming expectations, you take a look at the box office, and well, it just, it's having those massive fall-offs, and I'll be interested to see, right? Because it even had, well, okay, you go ahead with 56% second week drop-off, then just huge drop-offs into its third week if you're going Thursday to Thursday, I guess. So that'll be an interesting one to take note of, because as it sits right now, like internationally, it's doing pretty good. And once we get an update on Superman, moving off of that 95 million, we will see. We will see. I don't anticipate it having the same type of split that Jurassic World Rebirth does, but honestly, like as everybody was earmarking it, myself included, like this probably should have been $1 billion movie, but I highly doubt that it's going to get there, especially, with the fall off that we're seeing, and unless international numbers continue to bolster it throughout the rest of the summer, I don't quite see it, achieving that same pantheon, because Lilo and Stitch finally broke $1 billion at the global box office, the first one of 2025. It had a budget of $100 million. Lilo and Stitch 2 has already been greenlit, and I can't wait. Literally can't wait. It's going to be so great. But talking about Superman specifically, okay, and its success at the box office and how it's being rewarded and what the financials and what the breakdown, what the future of the DCU looks like. Well, a new day for DC, breaking down Superman's salaries, budgets, and more as studio fast tracks Wonder Woman and its future. Yeah, because, well, you take a look at the upcoming slate of DC projects and it's like, wow, really? That's how you're following up Superman. Okay, because if you had the keys to the DC castle, what would you go with? Well, I would probably start with Superman, the most recognizable and iconic superhero in history. And then right after that, what would you do? Would you go with Supergirl or would you go with Batman? Yeah, exactly. And okay, cool. What would your third movie be? Would it be Green Lantern? Well, no. We want to have an HBO streaming show for that. It's like, okay, I guess. Well, yeah, if you want to have multiple Green Lanterns, because canonically, depending on which storyline, because DC has so many different ones. Depending on how you want to go with that, it's like there are normally multiple Green Lanterns per sector. So yeah, if you want to set up something, it's like, okay, maybe that's a little bit more suited to a television show. But the Flash, who? Aquaman? No, he's playing Lobo. Wait, what? No. It's like Wonder Woman. She's a part of the Trinity. That should at best be your third, and worst be your fourth or fifth movie announced. It should definitely be a part of your first wave, whatever the hell you want to call it. And so, given the fact that you didn't have a script, you didn't announce anything outside of the stupid Game of Thrones and Themyscira bullshit that you were pushing a while back. Like, there was nothing on Wonder Woman. Like, what are you doing? But, oh no, we got a Booster Gold movie in production. Like, fuck right off, James. Anyways, talk about how the box office has been received at Warner Brothers first and foremost. So the refrain heard from Warner Brothers lot in Burbank and around Hollywood was good enough, accompanied by a sigh of relief as Gunn lifted off the $220 million worldwide, ushering in the 10-year vision for a DC. Zaslav took a victory lap before the ink was dry on the weekend's box office numbers, calling the performance soaring and just the first step as the posture struck many in town as odd and premature, given the CEO rarely weighs in publicly about the film's opening weekend. Domestically, Superman stuck the landing, but internationally, numbers are disappointing. Yeah, continues to sit at $95 million. That's very interesting. More importantly, Wall Street is feeling good about the bow. Warner Brothers Discovery stock jumped 2.4% from 1173 to a 1201 at the end of the day on July 11th, at that $11 mark, and then at the $12 mark on July 14th. Very impressive domestically, and a huge boost for the franchise, given some worries coming in. The international is mixed, but an overall A- weekend for Superman, which, yeah, man, even if you want to run with some of the funny money budgets, $225 million and another, it's so funny how this is the fluctuating number, because they've been pretty much steadfast after, the tax receipts came out and said that, yeah, this film cost $363 million, and then the actually brigade came out, and it's like, okay, cool. Even if you want to, and I'm never going to take this seriously, $225 million, but the fluctuation in marketing budget, because we've seen anywhere from $100 million at the low end to $200 million at the high end, but now Variety wants to go with $125 million. Sure, bro, whatever. So yeah, if you want to go with $350 million, this film needs, just basic movie math, 2.5 times that budget. It's like, it's got a good hold domestically, but those international numbers really need to pick up if you're going to be cresting 600 and getting close to $700 million to break even. But apparently the cope right now is, that's all right. It's laying a good foundation. It has good word of mouth. We'll make our money back with our next installments, which is why you're fast tracking a Wonder Woman movie, because the next stuff that's coming out looks like fucking boiled piss. But okay, if there's all of these accolades, internal accolades that James Gunn and crew are receiving, are there any bonuses? Is there a proper distribution of the wealth going on there, comrade? Typically, yeah, film stars earn top salaries, but in this case, Gunn was by far the biggest earner, pulling down 20 times more than David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan, who got $750,000, which, yeah, I talked about before, and, it's like, there's good justification for that, but this one, Gunn made $15 million from directing this, and oh yeah, on top of that, he gets a 7-figure salary for being the studio's top executive. This motherfucker right here, he hopped on a rolling locomotive in the form of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and yeah, okay, he was wildly successful with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies 1 and 2, 3. We can go ahead and have our conversations on that, but the Suicide Squad in 2021, well, that was a flop. Creature Commandos, did that move the needle at all whatsoever? What about Peacemaker? $15 million. You like, this guy, James Gunn, is such a fucking phony, dude. I keep my eye on him. This motherfucker. Yeah, and especially when Nicholas Hoult, somebody who has actually been in successful things, been a contributing factor in several successful projects. He got $2 million, bruh. That 15 is looking a little bit more interesting, okay? Although Warner Brothers has sequel options on Corenswet and Brosnahan, a sequel announcement does not appear to be imminent, because of course not, because we know what's coming out after. What's going to be a part of the Superman sub-franchise within the bigger franchise. We'll talk about that in a second, but instead, sources say that the studio is fast-tracking a Wonder Woman movie, and the studio is thrilled with Matt Reeves just submitted a screenplay draft for the sequel to The Batman, mostly because they just want to wrap up with Matt Reeves, and James Gunn can get his hands and he can finally lift the lid on, oh yeah, that screenwriter that I've been working with so closely on the Brave and the Bold project, it was me all along. It was me, Austin. It was me all along. Because that's exactly what's happening. Okay, like, would it be a surprise to anybody to go, hey guys, for the first time in history, somebody is writing both Superman and Batman, and that somebody is James Gunn. Oh my god, so we can have James Gunn's Batman and James Gunn's Superman team up with James Gunn's Wonder Woman. Oh, I can't wait to not watch that fucking snark fest. Even though it sounds like I'm incredibly down on the DCU, like I said at the beginning, I'm actually quite positive on it, because yeah, if we can have some stability and we can bring in some other creatives, there's hope. There is legitimate hope, okay? DC Studios has no company style, says James Gunn. Not every movie will feel like Superman because we don't want people to be bored. Well, yeah, hopefully something can feel like a good movie. That would be nice, huh? With over $250 million at the global box office in less than a week, Superman is widely considered a win for the new DC universe that James Gunn and Peter Safran are spearheading. So yeah, we've just already branded it a success, even though it's going to more than likely lose some amount of money. Next up for the franchise is Peacemaker Season 2, Lanterns, and yeah, some movies that we're going to talk about up next. But I don't want to lift the lid on that too early. But yes, as Gunn says, there's not a company style. It's not like every movie is going to be like Superman. The artists and the directors and the writers that create each one will bring their own sense to it. We don't want people being bored. Which, yeah, fair enough, okay? Especially with the different, like, the pantheon of characters that DC has. Same goes for Marvel, but they just want to make the same Marvel movie with, different interchangeable faces. But DC, yeah, it can have ruthlessly optimistic characters, theoretically, like Superman, but this one just spends the most of the time being irrationally emotional and getting his ass kicked. But yeah, just, in a vacuum, like the super happy, hopeful Superman, and then you can have a little bit more dark, brooding Batman. Then you can have, you can have your interesting and goofy characters that are far more comic booky. It's totally fine. You want to have different tone and tenor. You want to have different dialogue for each of these characters. That's great, man. You can have a big old team up. When it's all said and done, I've definitely got nothing wrong with that. It's just your release order kind of fucking sucks, okay? Because the third film, now that I guess that has been confirmed, will in fact be Clayface. Right, so you've got a tertiary Batman villain coming out before you have Batman, and it's going to be a complete horror film. Now, like I said, okay, there's nothing wrong with different tone and tenor, different approaches to film. But you go with Superman, okay? And Clayface is now apparently, because it started out as an Elseworld, but he's going to be wrapped up into the DCU. Yeah, make this one make sense. We can barely make sense of what James Gunn has planned, okay? Because he's announced how many projects and how many of those are actually going forward. But now Clayface is going to be in the fold. So you've got a complete horror film, an R-rated horror film off the back of what was supposed to be. And, for what people say, it's really hopeful and it's really uplifting, a Superman film. Make that one make sense. It's totally different. Yeah, it's not like every movie is going to be Superman. So, okay. So that's what Clayface is going to be. And then, of course, after I did my Supergirl video, okay, then we got the poster reveal. And yeah, we got 304 Supergirl, which, bro, it's... Fuck. Like... This is going to suck, isn't it? And if there's big cope around the not diminishing returns, that's what Supergirl is going to have, but just the muted returns that Superman has had this time around. What do you think? Supergirl was already going to pull in a percentage of what Superman was going to do, but if you say all of this stuff, like Millie Alcock is Supergirl, which I like, 1000%, and the costume looks good. It's just her personality. Once again, it's a hot chick with a shitty personality. Why the fuck would I want to go watch a movie on that? I could just go outside and experience that on a daily fucking basis. Based on Tom King's Woman of Tomorrow. Oh, great. So, miserable Supergirl wandering around the wasteland trying to fucking seek bloody vengeance. Fantastic stuff. Again, they can all be tonally different. Fellow Supergirl and a young girl on a murderous quest for revenge. Yeah, Jason Momoa, will come in and go, yeah, a whole bunch of times as Lobo. Directed by Craig Gillespie, okay, I, Tonya, which was nominated and I think reasonably well received. And, oh yeah, he did Cruella. Oh, fuck, this is gonna suck, huh? But hey, guys, that's the next DCU movie coming out, and it's gonna be great because instead of being hopeful and optimistic, this is gonna be a bloody revenge quest with a modern woman with daddy issues. God, I just can't wait to not watch this one. God damn it, it has never been, especially in regards to entertainment, it has never been better, and have never been so fortunate to be living through this timeline. Yay. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. Much to follow your gut and get after it.